Hello everyone, it's me, your host James the Food Man, and we're back again in the man's kitchen. And today we're going to make up a nice chicken pot pie. Now if you want to learn how to make a chicken pot pie like that, then you're going to have to watch this video and see what I did to make that pie. If you want to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, all those links are flashing across my face as we speak. You can always hit the subscribe button on this video and ding that bell icon. That way YouTube sends you updates when I post new videos and you don't miss out on anything. And you can always leave a comment down below. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about today's ingredients. I'm going to kind of eyeball it and wing it while we're going here. So over my shoulder, as they start popping up, those will be what I figured out to be the exact measurements while I'm going. In the meantime, as the name would imply, chicken pot pie, I got some chicken breasts, onion, milk, flour, bag of frozen corn and carrots, butter, frozen pie shells. I have these. Also, I wasn't sure what I was going to make because camera wife Heather didn't know how much to buy. So you can take your pie shell and you can thaw them, and you can use one pie shell as the pie shell, and you can take the crust or dough or whatever for the other pie shell and use that as your topping. She also in the fridge bought me a roll of pie dough, so I'm not sure what way we're going to go, but I have both here. So I got that. And then I know I got my secret weapon. It's chicken soup base. You can get some fresh chicken stock if you want. You can make some fresh chicken stock, you can buy some chicken stock, you can get the powdered base. It's all, like powdered base is just stock that's boiled down into a powder. Like they boil it down, freeze dry it, whatever. It's just rendered chicken fat. It's the same stuff that they make the stocks out of that you get in the cartons. It's really all the same. Plus we're gonna have some spices, herbs, you know, from the cupboard, some salt, pepper, that kind of stuff. Alright, so let's get on to the cooking aspect of this, and we're gonna start probably by dicing up our onion, which is the only vegetable that we have to take care of because peas and corn are frozen. So we're going to dice this up and we're going to trim up our chicken. So we're going to start off with dicing our onion, and actually I only needed half of this onion, so the other half was used in a different recipe. After we get the onion all diced up and put off to the side, we're going to pull out our chicken. I like to work with my least hazardous to my most hazardous ingredients sometimes. That way I don't have to clean as often. If I started with the chicken, then I'd have to wash the cutting board before I did the onion. If I start with the onion first, then I can move right on into the chicken. As you can see right after I get rid of this onion off the cutting board right there. Boom, we start with the chicken now. And I have two breasts, nice clean white meat. If you want to use dark meat, go for it. If you want to use last night's leftover barbecue, go for it. That sounds amazing. I didn't have any leftover chicken. I only had center cut prime breasts, so that's what I went with. But dark meat would probably be a little nicer, but some people won't eat it. Some people say it's greasy. It's got so much more flavor. Some people think it's not as healthy because it's so greasy, but it's got so much more flavor. I happen to be partial to breasts on the other hand, just because I guess I'm more of a breast man. Not that way. I mean I am, but I just, you know what? Well, we're talking about chicken right now, not that. So anyways, let's get the chicken into a bowl so we can add our sunflower oil, oregano, and some salt and pepper. So we go to our trusty pepper and our... Oh, there's some garlic powder. Yep, that's right, because we're still trying to get rid of that garlic powder shaker I've had for like 100 years. I'll buy a much smaller one next time. Yep, there goes the salt. I'm just going to mix that all up. I try to only use one hand when I do this kind of stuff, goes into the contaminated product, and the other hand stays clean. That way I can still move around without cross-contaminating my entire kitchen. So in our wok, and I chose my wok because that is my biggest frying pan, I have my onions, and I'm going to get those sweated off. And then I'm going to throw in my chicken right there. Boom, chicken and onions. And we're going to give that a nice toss, and it's instantly almost all cooked. Skip this. Don't do this. Don't bake your pie shells. Learn from my mistakes. It made they dried out a little much, and the top didn't. Just don't do it. So we're throwing our butter and flour in here to make a bit of a roux. And once we get that roux cooked off, so 2 to 3 minutes for a white roux, 3 minutes, 3.5 for a blonde roux, 5 minutes for a brown roux. We went with a white roux, and then we threw in our wet ingredients and our frozen ingredients. And you can see how it's all coming together. It's starting to stick. Now we're going to throw in a little bit of milk just to tint the color, basically. So we're going to go with probably about a half a cup. So we went with like about a cup and a half to 2 cups of water with the chicken soup base, and then we got the rest of the color with the milk. Probably, by the time I keep adding that up with more splashes in there, probably closer to half a cup, about a half a cup of milk. And that's going to give you a really nice flavor for your chicken pot pie. And then I just cooked this a little bit. I just reduced it a bit till it got sticky. And you see that I made perfect the right amount to go into my 2 pie shells. And since I ended up using both pie shells, then I just took out the frozen pie shells and rolled them on top. Now there's a problem with today's video, is that I had to go to work right after I took them out of the oven, so I have to rely on what camera wife Heather told me they tasted like, because they cooked one up for dinner, and then she froze the other one, and then they ate it again without me. And she said they tasted amazing. She wants me to make up more of these and leave them in the freezer for emergency dinners. So she said that there was a really good balance basically between the flavors. She would have preferred me to have not used corn and peas, but instead to use corn because that's what she likes. And when you're doing this, so like I said, don't par bake your pie shells, because you see how they pulled away from the edges. That made it really hard for the roll-on pie shells to stick, and I ended up with a heavy crust around the edges that actually in some spots fell off. So don't do that. Learn from my mistakes. Pardon me, I just have a little bit of a dry cough right now. So yeah, you're just gonna roll that on up. Crimp it. If you've been crimping pies for years, you might have a much better crimp than me. If you're just beginning, you're gonna have maybe the same crimp, maybe even better still. Who knows? But just work on crimping your edges in together, and then cut off the excess with a knife, or it's gonna get heavy in the oven and it's gonna fall. So since the guts of this were hot and ready to eat, and the bottoms were ready, I just put this in the oven long enough to cook the top. I think it took about 25 minutes. So I wouldn't bother par cooking the bottom next time.